Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the Frontline Changes Report. For those that are watching now on the main channel, you may not have known, if you didn't follow DPA war, that nowadays I will do Frontline Changes. So in the beginning of the sit rep, but today's sit rep is so long, I decided to cut it into 2 videos. So meanwhile, I can introduce the main channel people, to go over and watch on the DPA war channel. And the traditional sit rep will be on the DPA war channel. Let's start off with the first change over at Ivanivka. So there is frontline changes over at the Kupiansk front. So this is Kupiansk city, and in the frontline changes, main thing, this is actually mostly the change of the gray zones. Okay, so we start off from the top first. So at the Orlyanske region, the Russian forces have actually captured this tree line. This tree line over here has been captured by the Russian forces, and this is actually just on the eastern part of Timkovka, or the western part of Orlyanske, and the Russian forces, basically this Orlyanske, Timkovka, they have basically captured this area here. However, based on the frontline updates, there is also an indication that the Ukrainian forces have actually controlled this junction of trees, this forest over here. They managed to take this region here, while the Russian forces actually took these tree lines in the north. So likely the fighting is going to transit to this area here, with the Russians trying to control the entire tree line in the Timkovka or Orlyanske region, or Ivanivka region. So this is Ivanivka, as you can see, this is Ivanivka. Further south of Ivanivka, over at the Tabaivka and the Krokhmalne region, if you have followed DPA reporting for some time, we have always seen this as a massive gray zone. It's always been unclear who actually control this area here. So in the latest mapping comparison, with the latest report coming out from Ryba, the pro-Russian source, we can confirm that the Russian forces does not control the Tabaivka, and they are nowhere close to Pishane, despite there is always reports from this region here of fighting. So in fact, they are not even close to Krokhmalne, with the Russian front line actually just along this railway line around this area here, going up all the way to Kotelevka. And the main thing is that the Russians are actually making this push in this direction. They are attacking towards Tabaivka and Krokhmalne, and they have crossed the railway line and actually making the push. But because but this gray zone, as a result, has been invalidated, I mark it as a huge Ukrainian gain in this area here, that they have basically over the past months or even a year, that we have unable to confirm this front line. So we can finally confirm this front line. There is still pretty much some gray zones. For example, this area here, this is actually a gray zone, because the latest report at Krokhmalne is actually that after the Russians push across this railway line, they actually come very close. Along this highway, there's this highway around here. The Russian forces have basically reached the highway, and they are on the verge of attacking Krokhmalne. So if you look closer, this is actually some kind of road over here. The Russian forces is pushing towards Krokhmalne as we speak, and this is actually highlighted by Deep State UA as well. The pro-Ukrainian source mentioned about this fighting, and it's also corroborated by Ryba. So it's very good when you have both very highly trusted sources from both sides actually corroborating each other's information. And this is the frontline changes over in the Kupiansk front. So Russians making some push over here, Ukrainian getting some advantage over here. Gray zone disappeared, Russian pushing towards Krokhmalne. So this is a Kupiansk front. And we move into the next front line is over at the Sievers front. So the next front line change, this Sievers front, this Sievers city. So at the southern part of the Sievers front, the Russian forces have been announced by the Russian Defense Ministry to have captured Vesele. And so Vesele is this very tiny little flattened town around here, this area here. And the Russian forces allegedly has already captured this, as per announced by the Russian Defense Ministry, and this has been reported by Ryba as well, acknowledging the Russian Defense Ministry's report. However, according to the Ukrainians, at least Deep State UA, in their mapping, they only show that the Russians' firm control over Vesele is only around just over half of the settlement. this entire area here is, by the Ukrainians, they claim this is just gray zone. The Russians' firm control is only up to half of the settlement. So, but if it's just gray zone, I don't think the Ukrainians can also, just return, and just counterattack and retake the town so easily, because the Russians have firm control over half of it already. They have firm fire control over the northern part. So likely Vesele is still considered captured. But until the Ukrainians, the pro-Ukrainian OSINT, the open source intelligence, or the Ukrainian Defense Ministry acknowledge it, of course we will just continue to keep the Ukrainian mapping here. But you can see it's really not much, just a few tree lines, and the Ukrainians probably are holding along this forest ground. This area is really terrible. And you can see the front line, this is actually pretty low ground, and everything, they are surrounded by a lot of high grounds further up to the north. This is a this is a high ground, this is another high ground, So the Ukrainian forces definitely have some trenches probably in this area here, and they will be overlooking in this direction towards Vesele, and they can conduct fire control over this northern part of Vesele, with the Russians can only stay a bit further away to prevent getting hit by Ukrainian forces. So yeah, so this is the situation right now. You can see, if I zoom in again, you can see the situation for the Russians. Pushing out from Vesele is going to be very difficult, as just now mentioned, about due to the high ground control of the Ukrainians in these areas here. So we shall continue to see battles happening, and I believe we're going to see a lot of heavy bombardments and airstrikes on these Ukrainian positions prior to any successful Russian progress over from Vesele. Another frontline change is just west of it, is at Rozdolivka. So it's just a small change. The Russian forces have full control over this tree line and this early part of this western part of this entrenchment. So for those that do not know, you can see this heavy trench line just south of Rozdolivka. It stretches all across the entire of this tree line just off Rozdolivka. So this entrenchment is actually under Ukrainian control, and however, Russian sources do claim that it was already taken sometimes, but the firm control we can confirm is actually just this area here, along this railway line and roads region, and this trench line is still very much a suspect. We are not very sure if there is firm control of the Russians just yet, but Ukrainians are very clear that they have control around this area here in the south of Rozdolivka, but they lost control over this area. So this is the situation at Rozdolivka, the frontline change. We go on to Bohdanivka, over at the Bakhmut front. So this is Bakhmut city, and in the northwest of Bakhmut city, there is Bohdanivka, and there is some frontline changes. Geolocation of Russian forces over here. This is actually a flag on a house. It was taken out by Ukrainian, I think, drone or artillery. They don't like the flag of the Russian flag, and there is a Ukrainian map geolocated just on this very house. So this actually expanded the front line a little bit to this area here, and it's just a little bit of change. This is not a significant change. It's more like a clarification of the front line. So this is a very Ukrainian success if you look at it as if the Ukrainians have actually do some attack, but it's actually not the case. It's just a frontline clarification. Further southeast of this Bohdanivka, there's another geolocation of Ukrainian forces over in this tree line, and this geolocation shows that the Ukrainian forces have retaken this tree line again. So the Russians already previously seems to have taken over this area here. So now, due to the geolocation, the Ukrainian forces similarly to have taken back this tree line. So confirming that the front line actually is around here. So the Russians is probably along this tree line further up in the north. So this is the situation over at Bohdanivka. And so we go down to the southeast. Okay, so we go to Kamyanka. So this is Avdiivka front. So this Avdiivka city in the north of Donetsk city. So in this Avdiivka front, this is where the Russians are conducting very heavy of assault. Frontline change is over at Kamyanka. The Russian forces have captured this entire forest region in this area here. The Russians have pushed through and captured all this area here. You can see some of this, I believe this, I'm not sure if this is river or trench. Yeah, so this the ground here is extremely, you know, terrible. And this is actually on the high ground. So you can see this is actually, there's some sort of valley, so there's a river. So the Russian forces have basically went probably from the north, taken all this high ground. So this is the other high ground on the other side. This is the other high ground. So this is actually a very important capture for the Russians, because the Ukrainians are holding this high ground on this western part of this eastern front line of the Avdiivka front. So that is a change. Another change is that the Ukrainians are geolocated within this Donetsk filtration station, and with the Ukrainians being bombarded at the filtration station, which means that Ukrainians at some time ago managed to return to this area and form a defensive position at this filtration station. So this actually confirms the reduce the gray zone, the conflict, this contradiction between the Russian and Ukrainian side, showing that the Russians actually do not at least not have this filtration station here. We still have a lot of conflict. You can see that there's still an overlapping front line, still massive amount. We are still trying to clarify based on frontline changes or any mapping from the trusted sources. So we're still going to take some time before we can confirm all these changes. And further south of it, over at this area, this is the industrial zone in the southeast of Avdiivka, and the Russian forces expanded their control around this industrial area, this abundant industrial area. So this is just a little bit of change, not very significant because this is a forest, so it's not going to be very clear. And over at the south, very south of Avdiivka, there is a Russian offensive that has broke out along this road. I believe this is a road. Yeah, this is a road. So in the south, and they have a breakthrough and managed to reach nearly this settlement, this suburbs of this Avdiivka in the south. So this is actually very significant. This is actually reported, I believe, by who? Let me see. By Deep State UA. So at Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source highlighted this massive success of the Russians pushing towards the suburb, and this raising a lot of concerns on the Ukrainian side. And this for the Ukrainians, the confirmed control of the Russians are actually up to this point, and this entire area here is all becoming gray zone. All this area is gray zone right now. So the situation is getting very bad as the Russians continue to push down this road towards this suburb, and they already have firm control around this area. So this is a significant change and update regarding the situation at Avdiivka. And another major retraction or elimination of this gray zones comes at this area near the Kimik district or the 9th district of the Avdiivka. So in the north of Optyne, there was this massive dispute in terms of the front line. And previously, Ryba reported that the Russians were very close. I believe Surya Maps might have also said this. This was some time ago, and this update reported near Kimik was like, it's at the end of December. So it was some time ago, and during December in 2023. So the latest front line from Ryba in their mapping shows that the Russians actually do not have this much front line anymore. Is returning to actually much closer to what Deep State UA is claiming. So this entire area here is now invalidated. The Russians have either not there, or this is just a massive gray zone. So this is a significant change. So the Ukrainians actually have retaken, or they had always been there, and the Russians have never progressed that far from Optyne. So this is a massive frontline change at the Avdiivka front. So you can see this reduction of the front line, Ukrainians progressing over this area here, Russians advancing in this field area based on frontline changes. This is the situation at Avdiivka. And let's see the other frontline change. Is just next to it. It's at Pervomaiske. So Pervomaiske and Nevelske. So there is so this, in case you are lost, so this is this Avdiivka, and this is Pervomaiske, this is Nevelske. So in this area here, the Russian forces have been geolocated to be attacking within Pervomaiske. So there is some small little change in terms of the front line to this area here. So it's not very significant because situation within Pervomaiske is always very stagnant. There is a more significant one is over at Nevelske. So this is Nevelske, and then this is actually a stronghold. The Russian forces is now geolocated to have captured this tree line just east of it. So they are geolocated here, and this is the location of the front line, which means that the Russians have been pushing in this direction, and they are really close to this entrenchment right now. So this geolocation of this is the front line change. So so that's Nevelske, and this, and we move on. That's why I say there's a lot of change. Okay, I think this probably all of the changes. There's no more frontline changes. Yeah, this is everything right now that we have over the past 48 hours. The frontline changes of in the Ukraine war or the special military operation in Ukraine. Do go over to DPA War channel and catch the rest of the SIP rep. I'll see you guys in the next update.